Well, as we head towards the final segment of this morning's interview, and we know South Africa at this point in time in a state of euphoria because of the Rugby World Cup, and the Springboks will be coming up against the All Blacks in the World Cup final. But life generally is actually quite weird because, on the one hand, it has the ability to provide you with unconditional joy, celebration, but at the same time you are in a place of despair as well, and the despair at this point in time where many of us are feeling is what is playing out in Gaza. So we are having these mixed feelings, and I recall even during the time when the quarterfinals had taken place, and people watched the games, the final whistle went, everybody lost their minds, but it also put a damper in celebrations. And I'm sure Thaakir Dawood, sports broadcast journalist, who is joining us with the backdrop of the Ellis Park Stadium behind me, will concur. Zakir, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jummah Mubarak to you.
Walaikum salam and Jummah Mubarak to you too and your listeners, Uncle Inayat.
Yes, obviously it is a big weekend for us in South Africa. South Africa, a rugby-made country. But at this point in time, there are many, many people, and I'm sure you feeling it as well. There are mixed feelings where, on the one hand, you're happy the country has done well, the Springboks have reached the World Cup final, but also the other side of the world that is burning, despair, a lot of sadness, Zakir. And I'm sure you've got those mixed feelings as well.
No, definitely. It puts us in such a difficult place because at the one end you forced to be happy, if you want to call it that, because your country is going through um, something that can change the nation. Records are about to be broken. South Africa could be the first team to win three rugby World Cup titles, going for the fourth one now, um, and everything is going right for South Africa in that aspect. But then on the other hand, you're looking at things, and you have Palestine that's basically being torn apart at the same time. So where does it leave you as a sports lover? Because um, on the one side you're happy, and on the other end you actually sad and you in mourning with the people of Palestine. So where does it leave us as a country, and where do we take a stance on this? It's a question that many would ask.
Well, we've taken a stance in the past where we know that I think it was around February, March, if my memory serves me right, where South African rugby had no choice but to expel the Israeli club as well. So South Africa has been taking certain positions as well. And now that we are talking about rugby, there is one issue that came to mind, and it's good actually that they take this position as well. But again, we should not forget that. Looking at the Rugby World Cup, and South Africa has made great strides from a transformation perspective. We look at the makeup of the club, and South Africa has gone a long, long way. And for a country that has always been rugby mad, has been rugby crazy, we've done a lot, and we need to recognize this achievement of now making it to the final.
No, definitely. If there's one thing that South Africa has done right, was to tick the boxes from the ground up. We now have a team where you meet in your quota, if you want to call it that, your quota requirements, but not because of just filling spaces, because everybody in that positions are talented. And if you look at it, we've got some of the best players of color in this country, and I mean in the country and across the globe. If you look at it, so right now South Africa is in a healthy space in terms of rugby and the talent that's coming through, and a lot of credit must go through to the administrators and everybody that's been working on ground level at getting players equipped and skilled to be some of the best players in the world. And if you look at our players' market value right now, that's where I think South Africa have ticked most of the boxes, because our players can now go out there and make a living for themselves, whether it's in South Africa or it's internationally. They've equipped our players, and especially our players of color as well, with the necessary skills to go out there and make a living for themselves with the game called rugby.
Zakir, I know we're coming up against the All Blacks, and obviously the All Blacks as well. Very, very strong, always been a powerhouse in world rugby. And just your thoughts looking at the two teams matching up against each other. How do they match up?
Look, if you look at it, this is the greatest rivalry in world rugby, and it's not going to get any bigger than this. A Rugby World Cup final. The last time we had a match this big was in 1995. Actually, right here where I am right now, and you know that the pressure that came with it for South Africa, for the world, and now you fast forward a good couple of years later, and you've got a replay of that. Yes, there's a different set of players on the field. The rivalry is still the same, and if you're looking at how both teams match up, I think it's much different compared to how it was back then. The forward packs per se are much lighter, but more agile and able to move across the park much faster, and being still as strong. And your backline is also much faster if you want to compare the two. But if you look at Saturday per se, tomorrow evening, both teams are matched up. I think the interesting talking point this week was the 7-1, the split from Coach Jacques Nienaber on the bench, and going with only one backline cover on the bench and the rest just being forwards. So looking at that, it's quite interesting, and it's obvious what the game plan of South Africa is going to be. They're going to look at keeping it tight, playing up front, keeping the ball up front, and out muscling New Zealand to a certain extent, and also making them tired up front. And I think that's where South Africa's strengths lie, and that's where South Africa's strengths have lied for many years. And the fact that we're recognizing it and realizing this is our strength and playing towards that is what's going to work in a positive for South Africa. But from a New Zealand perspective, New Zealand, many wrote them off going into this World Cup because they haven't performed like the New Zealand of old. They haven't been putting out those performances of old. I mean, if you look at the last game South Africa played New Zealand, South Africa was very close to giving them a 50. We've got the
So you're
sprinkler on
getting a
here. Oh
shower
yeah,
there.
so yep, a quick one.
Yeah.
South Africa was very close to
Yes.
giving them a 50. But you look at that, and we look at things now. I think it's changed pretty much. So I think that New Zealand will give South Africa quite an intense game, but it wouldn't be one that they should be worried about. South Africa will be able to get this one over the line.
Well, you seem very, very confident. And also, just looking at New Zealand, we know they had a poor start to the tournament. They haven't been playing well, but they've had some strong performances in the build up to the final. I
Mm,
know South Africa as well, but the last one was pretty tight. We went right till
mm,
right the end when South Africa played England as well. So again, sports is sports, and it could possibly go either way. Now, I know you are on the sports field. I know you're a South African fan. Otherwise, I
mm.
would have asked you to do the haka for me, Thaakir, but I won't at this point in time. Just your predictions.
Look, my predictions on this one is it's gonna be tricky, but looking at the results in the past few finals, the last final that was played obviously was dominated by the forward pack, and South Africa's obviously you obviously seen a few tries being scored there. The first time in the rugby final where South Africa scored a try was Lucanio Makazola Mapimpi, Cheslin Colby, those guys doing the things. So I don't think much is going to change this time around, and I think South Africa is going to keep it tight, keep it up front. To be honest, I'm looking at a 15-12 scoreline going in the favour of South Africa, with Andre Pollard obviously scoring the winning points.
Well, let's see what happens comes the final night, and let's look carefully at the 15-12 scoreline as you are predicting, Zakir. But Jazakallah for that, and as always, for your time and providing us with that update. We wish you all the best, and also have yourself a great Jummah, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I mean, Walaikum salam. Shukran so much for having me. Jummah Mubarak to you and your listeners too.
Zakir Dawood,
Welcome.
sports broadcast journalist on the World Cup final. But again, the point I had made is it's left so much of a damper here in South Africa with all the joy, with all the happiness that the country has achieved. But again, looking at what is taking place in Palestine. And there are a number of people that have spoken to me about you've got all these world sports events taking place. We know the Cricket World Cup is taking place in India, the Cricket World Cup, the Rugby World Cup in France as well. But there are many people that have basically lost interest in what is taking place because we have become so overwhelmed, we have become so preoccupied, we've become very saddened at what we're seeing. And many have said that in our lives, esports really a priority, and this is the sort of people in that understand, that truly appreciate what is taking place, that there are bigger issues than just going about and celebrating, because the world is burning, innocent people are burning, people are being killed, people are being homes are being destroyed, families are being destroyed. thousands upon thousands of people are injured since October 7th, since this brutal assault and had taken place on Gaza. And with it, this weekend, we will see the what they call in Afrikaans, what they call it, the gees, and we will see the green and gold. We will see the rugby jerseys right across the entire country. People will be walking, but at the same time, you will be seeing many, many Palestinian flags because there are many events that are taking place in many towns, and you will see motorcades, you will see walks, you will see rallies taking place. So, together with the South African flag flying high, we will still see the Palestinian flag flying high as well. And with that, I'm going to leave you. Let us remind ourselves it is the day of Jummah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy on each and every one of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring us closer to Him on this day of Jummah. Let us recite abundant durood on Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Let us not forget to recite Surah Kahf as well. So have yourself a blessed, a wonderful day of Jummah and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With that, from myself and the team, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.